Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and we are back for our talking tactics slash transfer rumour live special show. And I have Martin joining me, the wonderful Marto Leonardo, who was just telling us about his light bulb goes out, just telling us about his trip to Villa Park last week against Bournemouth, and also saw the women's team get through to the semi-finals of the FA Cup. I mean, what a weekend that was for you, Martin.
Oh, unbelievable. I mean, it started off, I flew in the night before, and I remember I went into the bar, and funny enough, and I swear this happened to me. One of the lads says, didn't you tweet that every time you come here, Villa don't lose? And I went, yeah, that was me. I put myself out there. And he goes, I tell you what, the last time you were here, when that tweet was on and they won, now I know you're here. Now I know we're winning tomorrow.
There you go.
Right? And so I went to the game, and atmosphere from the get-go was brilliant, and the seats were great from George. Thanks very much, George, if you're watching. And then I was sitting next to a lad. He had Jacob Ramsey to score first. Didn't Jacob Ramsey go and score second? And he was fuming because, you know what, his phone was broke. Like, you know where your screen could, like, flicker? It was like one of them. It was broke. He couldn't do another bet. So he went on to win 3-0. A brilliant performance, fully controlled. And then I got a ticket last minute to the ladies' game, and I was sitting next to Kevin, and went with his kids, Ted and Esme. Beautiful kids, absolutely. I have to say, they really are a joy to Kevin. And you know, Ted is Kevin's son. I swear to
Yeah,
God,
I know. Yeah,
the chance that young lad was coming with,
yeah.
you know, he's Kevin's boy. But they won 2-1, and that was a great day. And Kevin started off. He said to his kids when I met his kids, you know, every time Martin comes here, Villa don't lose, so you know we're going to win today. I'm like, oh, here, I'm under pressure now.
Put you under pressure. Yeah. No, yeah. Well, mate, you kept your 100% away. Sorry, your 100% undefeated record going. But yeah, fantastic, mate. Fantastic. And we also have our favourite football data analyst, Gareth, who is the star of the show. He's produced all of our bar charts. We've got bar charts coming about our ears, Gareth. We've got questions answered from viewers, and obviously, if there's any, hopefully we'll cover all the players that we're interested in or potentially interested on this. But if there's anything else that you want to ask Gareth that you can maybe answer quickly, then please do get your comments in. As always, please do hit the like button. Please do hit the subscribe button, and comment on the show. So Gareth, you've been busy, mate, and we've got loads to go through, man.
Yeah, you asked me to do some bits, so I've done some bits, and then some more bits, and then some more bits on top of that.
And also laid some laminate flooring at the same time.
I have been laying laminate flooring today. That is very true.
Good stuff. Right, so we're going to start off in the striker department, because I think it's an area where, obviously, Ollie Watkins has been doing very well of late, and John Duran, who scored a goal for Colombia today in his debut, has done, has come on and look raw, but looks like he's got potential. But Martin, definitely an area where we could do with that competition within the team, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've kind of noticed as well, Ollie Watkins tends to do a lot better when he's a lone striker, because you can do that hard work and get the reward for it. But it's definitely something in the squad that's really, really weak. Only one striker to rely on. If he gets injured, unfortunately, Archer's out on loan. Then you're talking putting up John Duran, and I have no complaints about John Brown, but you know yourself, he's still inexperienced, still a young player. And then you've Bertrand Traore, so it's definitely an area that needs strengthening. It really does.
Absolutely. So, Gareth, we'll get onto it. One of the players who's going to be very, very high in demand in the summer is Brentford's Ivan Toney, a player that we could probably have. I don't know if you know any rumours, but obviously we do like to get players from Brentford. Was it a player that we potentially could have got earlier on in his career, and maybe cut out the middleman?
No, I don't think it was. I don't think he was ever on that sort of radar at that time. I think he was always there wasn't, you didn't hear sort of a great deal of rumours, did you, around him on leaving Peterborough and sort of stuff like that. He was always going to go to that sort of next stage up. And I don't think Brentford were in the Premier League, were they, when he to join them? So he was obviously, people didn't quite think he was Premier League ready at that time. However, they've obviously, Brentford have got a very good model going there, always have had, and he's going to be worth a few quid in the summer if anybody does come calling. And I think, in my opinion, Villa, he would fit us down to the ground.
Yeah. Well, let's have a look at his bar chart here. So, what are we looking at here in terms of his main strengths and attributes, Gareth?
Yeah, I think obviously we're looking at, we all know sort of people who watch Brentford and watch Ivan Toney, who are fans of him, will know what he's about. And some of that stuff you can't sort of stick on a stat really, because, his hold up play, his turn is very good. What I do notice about Toney a lot is not only is he aerially very strong, 49.1% aerial win percentage in the Premier League, and I think it goes up to 53.7 if you compare him to the big five in the league. So he's obviously doing the bits in the air. But not only that, but if you notice his relationship with Brian and Mbeumo, it's very similar to that sort of relationship that he could have with Ollie Watkins. And Mbeumo is a very similar player to Ollie Watkins, in not only in profile, but as when you see him on the pitch, you can sort of, the runs in behind. All Watkins needs is that player sort of in that sort of number, not a number 10, but sort of just behind Ollie Watkins almost, that can all part as a front two, that can do these bits, can provide flick-ons. But not only that, but Toney can sort of draw the ball in. And as we see on the graph, he's got an eye for a pass after that. So it's what he does after that. We can see the through balls are high. The progressive passes are high. So you can see that he's doing these little bits with it. So it's just when he gets that ball, what can he do? And I just think he fits the mould of the player that we need perfectly. Yeah.
And Martin, your thoughts on Ivan Toney? Obviously he's progressed through that Premier League over the last, 2 seasons now, or is he in his second?
I think
it's
his
third season now.
I think this is their third season with Brentford, but I think it's their second season in the Premier League.
Right. Okay. So he's obviously proven it in that first year, and obviously that second season is the hardest, and he's doing even better. So, obviously he's going to come very highly rated, isn't he?
Absolutely, and I can probably imagine a lot of people probably had Brentford as a second season syndrome team, which it wouldn't be the baddest of shouts because it has happened before with the likes of Ipswich.
Well, look, there's loads of
teams,
isn't there? Norwich, West Brom, away. Yeah.
It's all happened to them where they had that one good year
before.
Yeah, and then second year, complete capitulation. But Ivan Toney to Villa, I've never agreed with it because of the players that we have, and I feel like he's going to want to play with a club that's in Europe, like Europa League or a Conference League or Champions League. I think that's his next move. But now, if Villa somehow miraculously get a European spot this summer, I'm not getting ahead of myself, then Villa could be looked at because it's a European competition, and he's going to want to prove himself in that as well. Because when he got let go from Newcastle, it was all about proving himself. He'd done it in League Two, won Championship. Now he's done it in the Premier League. His next step is what? European football. Yeah. And I think that's going to be his next move if he's going to make a move.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah, I mean,
Gareth, Alfie's just asked that. Do you think you'll leave Brentford for us? So, yeah, mate, over to you.
Yeah, that brings me on to that exact question and leads on from Martin's point. I will be clear. I'm not saying that I think that he is a sort of real possibility, but he fits the statistical profile that we would be looking for in that position and what we need. But I do agree with Martin, and I do agree with the question a little bit, is that would he leave for us? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. I still think it's an upward step. I have to say, I still think it's an upward step to us from Brentford. No disrespect to Brentford, but I think it will be, especially from next season, I think it will be an upward step. So I just think the fact that he would complement Ollie Watkins really, really well, that sort of could swing, and money talks, obviously, but again, it just fits that profile of that sort of player we need, really.
Yeah, well, I've just put up that comparison there. The what do you call these again? I forget. Radar, that's it. And comparing the two, and looking at it as kind of layman's terms, you'll explain a little bit better than me, but it does look like that complementary like setup there. There's certain things that Watkins is better at, and there's certain things that Toney's better at.
And this is exactly why we do comparisons. When we do player recruitment work, we do the comparisons. We want to see a direct comparison. And I like these radar charts. They're familiar to a lot of people, but they're very good at sort of conveying quite a bit of data in just one perfect viz with a little table beside it. And as you say, look at the similar numbers, the non-penalty expected goals, the shots on target, the assists, successful dribbles. It's a similar sort of thing, but we can also see that, he is that little bit better in the air, and he provides that little bit of just a different link player, I think, to what we've got. And he can score goals. And plus, what I would say is a big plus as well. He's a proven penalty taker.
Yeah.
Which Villa do not have.
Yeah. Talking of other strikers and the player who did score a vital penalty for us in the Championship, another player rumoured and heavily linked actually to Villa again. I don't know how much of a lazy link this is, but Tammy Abraham you wanted to bring up as well, Gareth. And again, a striker that fits that profile a little, fairly similar, but maybe has different strengths to an Ivan Toney.
Yeah, Tammy's had a tough year. 6 goals, 3 assists in 27 games this year, and he's not hit the heights that he did last year, and it's been a tough season for Tammy, but class is pretty permanent really. And I think if he's another sort of player, again, maybe even more so than Toney aerially, that he would suit that sort of game. He's got that Toney profile where he can turn, bring the ball down and play a nice pass. He's technically very good, Tammy Abraham, and I think fans wouldn't sort of not want to see him back at the club, to be honest. I think he's one of those sort of players that fans like. You can see it from the shot creating actions, the goal creating actions, the expected assists. He's still got that little bit of creativity that we need. Now, don't let a rough season fool you. He's not had a great season, but it's not.
It doesn't mean he's a bad player, does it?
Yeah, they're not prolific forever. So I just think he is another one of those sort of players who can play behind Watkins possibly, or as a pairing, and he can cause defenses problems. Great in both boxes, aerially very strong. It's just a question of cost.
Yeah. Couple of well, that's what I'll come to on these two players. Actually, we'll profile one more striker. But Mark Farrington had a quick question. Will clubs look past the potential ban and previous attitude issues with Toney, and then talk about the price? But we'll talk about that in a second. Martin, do you think that clubs will look past the ban? Or do you think they'll take that as an opportunity to maybe get him and thinking, well, if he's going to be banned for 6 months, we might get him on the cheap?
I don't. That's a tricky one. If it was me in charge of a football club and I knew this ban was going to come and it was 6 months, I don't think I'd go for him.
Yeah.
Because you're missing half the season and then he's going to be playing catch up. So you might see him have one more year in Brentford. If that's the case with the ban. I completely forgot about the ban, so that's a fantastic question. So he might have one more year at Brentford because Brentford love him. Thomas Frank basically came out and said, I'm still playing him. Because he's his top goal scorer. So,
well, look, he hasn't been officially there's no decision made yet, is there?
It's just an investigation. It's all it is. So, you can still play. There hasn't been you're banned while there's an investigation. No, there's an investigation. So, it's all allegation. It's all up in the smoke at the minute. So,
yeah, I mean, potential suitors, in player recruitment, they will do their due diligence before anything is sort of done like that. They would look into that. They would consult.
Yeah, all background checks and everything. Yeah, they will go into it.
What is the likely scenario to happen? They won't know what, but they will know a likely scenario. And is it worth it? Sort of thing. I don't think he'll get a ban personally. I don't think he will. I think he might get sort of a substantial.
He might get a fine. I think he'll get a fine. Yeah.
Yeah, and you might see him miss a few games. So. It depends. It's not going to affect the cost. Let's put it like that. If Brentford value him at 70, 50, 60 million, that's what he will cost, whether a ban or not, I think. So it's a case of who's going to sort of bite the bullet, really.
Yeah. The final striker that we wanted to touch on Gareth, was Jonathan David. Again, fits the profile. We saw in the World Cup, albeit fairly fleetingly. I don't think he had the greatest of World Cups. However, I think rumours have had it that he's hit the ground running. He hit the ground running when he came back from the World Cup, and and is doing pretty well. Hopefully, you're going to back up my theory on that.
I will back your theory up on that, Rich. Yeah, I mean, 19 goals, 27 games. What's not to like?
Wow.
You can't argue with that. Like you say, since the World Cup, he's hit the ground running. He's injury free pretty much. He's played pretty much every game, I think, bar one, I think, for Lille. So he's a bit of a different profile to what we would be looking at in terms of Tammy Abraham, for instance, but more of a Duran sort of centre forward, if you like, pacey, quick in behind, but technically, again, very good, very good. You can see everything there. Can cross the ball, key pass, box passes, anything you like. Not too bad in the air, not the best, but not too bad in the air, but plenty of goals, plenty of shots, and he's a creative sort of force. And I think him and Watkins, especially if you're looking to press high and press from the front, they're the two that you want up top.
Yeah, for me, I know it's one of those. It's like I don't know, the exotic or whatever. It's the slightly unproven, but it would be an exciting one, wouldn't it, Jonathan David? Just because we obviously know what Ivan Toney can bring. That brings a price as well. We've had Tammy. We know what Tammy can bring. But I guess the Jonathan David would be. Obviously, I would say the risk is higher there, but I think the reward would be that much sweeter. Yeah,
I think you can see him in a Villa kit, can't you?
Yeah.
In your mind.
Yeah. Martin, I'll come to you first, and then we'll go through some questions. In terms of first of all, two questions: which one would you prefer out of the three if you had the ultimate choice, and how much do you think each of them would cost?
Well, in terms of how much each of them would cost, I think Ivan Toney would probably be somewhere in around 60 million. Tammy Abraham, Roma, Syria, might be 40, 45. And then I think Jonathan Davis would be the cheapest in the league, going to 30 to 35, maybe pushing 38. I would rather Jonathan David. He's the one I've really been looking at. 19 goals, 27 games, like Gareth just said there. I thought he had 20, but he's 19, admittedly. And he's
get
flying.
20 at Villa next season in the Prem.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's the one I've been a big fan of, and he's the one I'd like to see come in the door.
Nice. And Gareth, same question to you, mate.
Yeah, I'm just having a quick look on transfer market, actually, to see. Yeah, I mean, market value for David is 45 million currently.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many years. I don't know what he's got left on a contract. It's all contract dependent, really. But yeah. I mean, Tammy, I wouldn't want to pay anything more than 40. I don't think they would. I think Jonathan David, they would. If you come between Jonathan David and Ivan Toney, and they were both costing 50 million, then that's when the problem comes in. Because then you have to offer, well, who's going to offer what? What is the better investment? Because you've got to think of resale value. They always do.
That's where David probably have more. He's 4 years younger than Toney.
You're right, and that's the correct thing. But also, some clubs think of the here and now. What do you, what do you want? I couldn't decide. If I was pushed, I would have to say Ivan Toney, purely for the fact that he is a penalty taker. I think he offers a little bit more for what we need at this moment in time. However, that's not to say I would, turn my nose up at Jonathan David. And it's not, straight up. I'm just sort of spitballing really about that.
Yeah.
You're hovering between the two there, so yeah.
Yeah, I am. I don't really, it's a tricky
sitting
one.
on the fence there.
Yeah, he's like that. I'm going to go here. No, maybe go here.
Usual analysis, yeah.
When you're going grocery shopping. Oh, I like that one, but I like that one. I like that one. I like that one.
Get both.
Yeah, just get the two.
Yeah. Alfie's Reef joined us, says Spanish speakers will be coming in. He thinks Unai will have a certain player Unai will have certain players, is what I'm thinking, and for the most part are cheaper. Well, we'll come to that. I think there are some players that will certainly fit that profile that you're talking about. Duncan's in, Evening Dunk. Peter, who was actually at the game as well, travelled with his wife, the Bournemouth game, first time travelling over from Australia. So, yeah, that was great for them, seeing them win as well. Got a question, I think, for you, Gareth. Can you explain why Danny Ings didn't work out well with Ollie, but Toney would work out?
Yeah, completely different type of player. Villa were crying out for that sort of hold-up man, really, sort of, like I say, pairing it as a front pairing sort of thing. And Danny Ings was a Steven Gerrard signing, wasn't he? Let's be honest. And it wasn't needed because he is the same sorts of player, isn't he, than Ollie Watkins, looking for runs in behind all the time, good finisher, but really nothing offers in the air or anything. And they just didn't complement each other very well. And plus the system that Gerrard had at the time, it just wasn't fitting for two sort of number nines, if you like. And it's Toney's a very different sort of player to Danny Ings.
Yeah, well, I think he's there's a cry out, isn't there, for that again, for that kind of striker, that Ivan Toney, that Didier Drogba type striker who can do everything, whereas Ings has got that, that kind of off the shoulder, good finisher, but doesn't really get involved in the play that much again. And I think you're right. And it was just interesting. Obviously, he was bought when we sold Grealish under Smith, and it was like, we've bought these prototype players that will cover for what Jack Grealish left. And really, to be honest with you, I'd say only really Buendia has been a semi-success out of those three players. And I think it comes to something when Ings hasn't set the world alight at West Ham, has he? So
no, I mean, the thing is, or what I would say is that when you look at, you're right, when you say about people asking about Toney and players like that, if you play with a front three and you've got sort of two wider forwards who can cross the ball, Toney fits that centre profile. So does Ollie Watkins, essentially, because they can head the ball, they can finish it. But he also fits that profile if he's playing in the front two. So therefore, he fits a lot of systems. People like Toney and Ollie Watkins, so they are quite sought after centre forwards.
But I don't think Ollie Watkins has ever suited the front two. I think he's so much better when he's a lone striker. So I can kind of see if any striker comes in, that Ollie Watkins will be pushed out left, like almost like an inverted winger, because he's done that role for Brentford under Smith, as well as Ben Rama, and that even worked wonders for him. So if a striker does come in, that's what I can see Ollie Watkins doing.
He's definitely got a manager who knows how to coach, though, hasn't he? He's got a coach who will work out a way in a system of playing. So I think we'll be looked after there. But good question, Peter. Alfie said, "Are we going to spend 40 million plus?"
You probably have to in today's market if you want to get a 20-goal season striker.
Think Villa need to aim higher than Toney, says Duncan. Jonathan David, yes, please. Ben Yedder is Duncan's.
Nah, he's like 34, 35, isn't he?
Agree it'd be Spanish-based player, says Stuart, who's joining us. Should have bought Tammy rather than Ings at the time, says Duncan.
But he didn't want us
then.
But that would have been in that season where he was scoring all them goals. He would have cost you a lot of money at that time.
Yeah. And Duncan agrees with you. Yeah, it's all about timing, isn't it?
Yeah, can I just jump in on that sort of the Spanish type thing? What you've got to remember is as well, especially that Villa don't recruit from Italy unless it's someone like Tammy Abraham, who's an English player. They recruit from France and Spain. So they're the markets potentially that you're probably looking at, because they don't really recruit from anywhere else, apart from players like Duran, who was sort of like, sort of come to the attention sort of somewhat, through.
Yeah, I'm sure Angel had quite a lot to do with that.
Exactly. You've got links. Yeah, you've got links. Yeah. So you're looking at French and Spanish based players, really. It's not purely restrictive, but you can see if you look back over the last few years, look who we've signed and where they've come from.
Yeah.
Yeah. Championship as well is another one that, exactly. You've seen come true.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had a question from, because we're going to mix with like questions from obviously viewers, questions from people that asked before, and then obviously focusing on some players as well. So Question from Entree 3000. I like the name.
I didn't realise you watched it. I really didn't.
Yeah, these are from like this is, or any of us could answer this, but I'll come to you first, Gareth. Conser trialed at right back in the behind closed doors friendly. He was good there. He was good there in lockdown season, but how does he stack up as a credible option? His bravery on the ball has improved, but still struggles with a high line a bit. Could be worse at right back. He could save us a penny if it works out. If not, who comes in? Particularly, obviously, with Cash now out for the next 3 games.
Yeah, I think you're probably looking at Conser at right back now, aren't you, for a while? But in the summer, they will recruit at right back, I think, because it's not just, no slant on Cash, but they will recruit, I think, at right back. The difference is that if you notice, when Villa build up, you're looking more on sort of like, now Mourinho is in that side. There is more of that sort of Man City style build up where you have sort of 3 centre halves.
Great point.
Yeah, you have 3 centre halves and you have Moreno pushed up. Whether that's going to be the way that they will, and even now Cash is in the side. If you notice, Cash doesn't bomb on anymore.
No.
He's more part of a sort of an unorthodox back 3, if you like. So whether I still think he wants to attack in full back. So I think they will recruit at right back.
Yeah. Martin, would you tend to agree with that? I mean, Gareth made a great point there about the kind of, that more defensive-minded right back, and particularly as we play in Chelsea on Saturday, I can't imagine us bombing up both flanks. So it does kind of lean towards supporting Conser playing rather than Ashley Young.
Yeah, I agree with Gareth 100%, and here's a bit of evidence just to back that theory up. When he was with Villarreal, Juan Foynt, who was a centre-back, was playing right back for Villarreal, and their left back was just bombing up. So when left back bombed up, the right back just instantly shifted into the centre back. So it was straight at the back. There was plenty of cover. So he likes that one centre back to go into right back. It's just part of his tactical game, and it's worked a lot of the time. So I can definitely see Conser being an option there Saturday, and that brings Diego Carlos and Tyrone Mings into centre half partnership. So, but we have to wait and see the lineup.
Yeah.
I personally think it's probably going to be Ashley Young.
Isn't it?
I think it's going to be Ashley Young.
I just worry, like with a Sterling or a Mudryk or whoever, just pace wise. But we'll see. But
look, Heung-min Son has plenty of pace.
Yeah. I mean,
it's just the experience of knowing where you're going to be.
He's a worthy replacement.
Yeah, I think against Chelsea, to be honest, we'll see Young at right back. I can't see him sort of all of us. That's quite a big switch.
And again, by Chelsea as well, I don't think you go with Conser right back.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is
to bring Carlos back in. No.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is he might not even bring Carlos into that game. That's a hell of a game to bring him into. It might be a check. If he was to put Conser to right back, he might put Chambers in at centre back. But we'll see. Alfie says twice Cash has come back injured from internationals. Yeah. And Black Rum says Ashley Young will be the sensible option. Guys, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for all your comments. Get some great chat already. Please hit that like button. And please do hit the subscribe button. The growth over the last couple of weeks, again, we seem to have hit a massive growth spurt, lads, in terms of subscribers. We've gone up to 1,130, I think now, or might even be more. So if we could hit 1,150 tonight, that'd be great. There is a chance to donate to the channel or get a super chat in and get your question up to the top. So hit that $sign. Any donations are fantastic. Obviously, Gareth puts a lot of time and effort into getting all the stats and all the bar charts and all the diagrams and stuff for you. So yeah, any help on the channel would help us. It goes straight back into the helping the channel grow. So yeah, anything would be amazing. But yeah, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. They're totally free. And thank you for all your support. So back to some players. We've obviously talked a lot about. We've been rumoured with. Is it Pedro Goncalves? Is that his name?
Yeah.
So I know we had a question about this as well, Gareth. And Sporting Lisbon. The only reason why I know him quite well is he scored a cracking goal against Arsenal in the Europa League last week. Great vision, or the other week. Great vision, brilliant finish. I think he got put on a lot of clubs' radars after that. But you've got your radar chart here, comparing him with Emi Buendia. So yeah, take it away, mate. What are your thoughts on him?
I was sort of debating on who to put him up against, really, but I went with sort of the player in Buendia who's had the more minutes, really, and yeah, very sort of similar sorts of profile, different sort of player to watch. But when you look at the data sort of thing, a very sort of similar profile. But Goncalves is really good defensive contribution, from an attacking midfield position. He plays on the left of sort of like a 3-4-2-1 for Sporting in the main. So he's one of the two up top, sort of one in the two number 10s, or number 8s, if you like. He fits the profile quite well for what we like. The trouble is that I think he will be, referring back to what Martin said, sort of about maybe Toney, that I think he will be probably going to a higher sort of similar sort of club to the level of Sporting in a Champions League club. But yeah, there's a lot to like about him, and he's obviously become a bit of a fan's favourite for the Villa Twitter fans, and things like that. So it's a tricky one, it is, because he's a fantastic player. Whether he comes, probably not.
Yeah. It's smacks Martin of like that. Put him out as a rumour to Villa on the basis that other bigger clubs will maybe take the bait and come in for him a little bit.
Yeah, it was a bit like Joe Felix, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Remember when Joe Felix got
tease us with a quality player. Yeah. Get all the hype. Yeah.
For about 20 minutes, Villa fans were on cloud 9. And then Man United, Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool all came in. That was it. Gone.
That was a perfect analogy. Yeah, well done. But yeah, I mean, obviously, other kind of forward players, maybe a bit more realistic is Samuel Chukwueze from Villarreal, a player who I'm sure Emery knows a lot about. Again, quite heavily linked within in the January window. I think he's available at a reasonable price as well, Gareth.
No idea. Didn't research that bit. Thanks for that.
No, that's all right.
Yeah, thanks for that. No, but he is available at a better. I think he's only got about a year left on his contract, isn't it? Or does it finish in June? I can't remember now. But
yeah, I'm sure of it. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's typical Villa that probably we look at Chukwueze and we end up getting Nicholas Jackson after all that.
Yes.
So it's that sort of thing again. I mean, yeah, it just depends, doesn't it, on what sort of. Again, what you're looking at, really. I mean, these are the sorts of level of player I think we're looking at. I think people are getting Goncalves and all Champions League profile players like that, and it's just a little. I know Villarreal are, but it's a bit of a different level of sort of player to Goncalves, and I think that'll be the one that sort of we might end up looking at is Chukwueze.
And I mean, looking at their take-ons is good. Successful dribbles is really good. Progressive carries is very high. Not very good at shots on target and not great at shots and tackles won and that. But that's not what you want him for. But what I'm getting at is he a risk of being another Bertrand Traore type player?
Yeah, he could well be. I think he's 4 goals and 5 assists in 25 games this season. So it's not a great return. Could we be doing better? Yes, probably.
Yeah. Michael's in the house. Good evening, Michael. Another player who caught a lot of controversy, again, is being touted around a lot of clubs before the end of the season, and probably a player who you would love to have in your team, but you hate playing against is Wilf Zaha. I'll come to you first, Martin. First of all, before kind of Gareth goes through the stats, what are your thoughts on Wilf Zaha coming to Villa?
No.
Being a closet Palace fan,
No, don't want him.
No, any reason?
No. I'm telling you now, I think Palace fans will agree with me on this. He's either a 0 out of 10 or he's a 10 out of 10. He is so inconsistent in the Premier League. So why hasn't he got that big move earlier in his career? Yeah, he got it to Man United admittedly, but he went back. So where was the big move? It didn't happen for him. I think he's a good player, don't get me wrong. I think there's a player in Wilfried Zaha. But he's just so inconsistent. He's either there or he's not. was a bit like John McGinn for a while, wasn't it? Like he was either there or he wasn't. There was no in between, and I don't think Zaha is the answer. And I think he'd just be looking for a move to us for another payday, like just that one last payday, So I personally wouldn't want them anywhere near the club. In my opinion, that's just the way I see it.
Yeah, it's fair. Just to run through his stats, Gareth, and then your opinions on him too.
Yeah, I think people know what you get with Wilf Zaha. I'd agree 100% with Martin in that he's either a 0 out of 10 or he's a 10 out of 10. He is very inconsistent, and I do agree with Martin that that's probably why nobody else sort of has come in for him. But another player who's only got a year left, I think, so could be available at a reasonable price. If I put this on here mainly because I get a lot of messages about Wilf Zaha, sort of saying would he fit Villas, and I think he would. I
think his contract actually expires this summer, Gareth.
Yeah, is it this summer?
Yeah, I think it's this summer. Yeah.
So there you go. So he would be available on a free. So he would have been a typical Gerrard signing, wouldn't he?
Yes.
Stick him on the left of a front three, and he would have been, or the right of a front three, whichever, and he would have done the business probably, but. No, I mean I agree with Martin. I don't.
Well, also he's. There's rumours he's on like 200 grand a week at Palace. Like I think they pay him a wage and then they pay him out of like the money that they make from the academy and stuff, or that they've made. So he's on a big wage at Palace. They've done a lot to keep him. So there's rumours of him going to Saudi and where they could potentially match his wages as well. So. Like you said, Martin, is he too old now for a Champions League club who would be able to afford those wages? If he wants to be paid those big money, is he going to have to go to the likes of a Saudi club or out to Turkey or something like that and be a star man at one of those clubs? Who knows?
Yeah, like I think I seen Besiktas were the ones that were linked with Zaha for quite a bit.
Yes,
so maybe he'll go there because it's Champions League football.
Yeah. Michael's got a great comment here. Welcome to Aston University. Tonight we will be discussing the thesis from Professor Emery with Dr. Rich, Dr. Gareth and Dr. Martin. I don't know about that, mate, but yeah, we will.
I'll quite happily take that.
Yeah.
100% you take that. Rich works in recruitment. Gareth, what do you work at?
Sorry?
He does this, mate. This is what he does.
Yeah, I do this now. Yeah, I'm in between. Yeah.
And I'm an apprentice electrician, so we'll take the doctorates.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah. Now, a player who won't kind of go away in terms of rumours. I did see this on Twitter last week, I think, or the week before. Ismaila Sarr again. Obviously, Gerrard pulled the plug on this deal because for whatever reason he didn't like his attitude, or he changed the demands at the last minute. But apparently he is all set for a move in the summer. Is it going to be Villa, and what can he bring?
I don't know if it will be Villa, but yeah, you're right. The demands, the agent changed the demands at the last minute, and Gerrard wasn't, and Johan weren't having any of it. I don't think so. That all fell by the wayside, as it were, and he never got a move because it was too late. So, but you know what you're getting with Sarr. This is in compared to the Championship, So I mean, take it with a pinch of salt. There's not that many great wingers in the Championship, but Sarr is one of them players I think who Emery would fit in. He would fit in just nicely, I think. I really do. A traditional winger in every sense almost, will take on players, will drive into the box, creativity, likes a shot, chip in with a few goals as well, and progresses the ball really, really well. And he's a better version of almost Bertrand Traore when properly fit almost. There's very similar sort of profiles and a very similar sorts of players. But Sarr's just not quite proven that much in the Premier League, has he? We could say the same about Traore, I guess. Yeah. But I think Sarr would offer that little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, out of those three, in terms of again the risk, the kind of wages, what you're getting. If you had to force me, I'd probably say I'd prefer Ismaila Sarr, because you don't know what you're going to get with Chukwueze. Obviously, again, Zaha is going to be massive wages. What's that going to do to your wage structure at the club? And you're buying for like the here and now almost. Whereas Sarr is still young, keeping fit, working under Unai Emery. It could be a winning formula. he's obviously got the pace of a Bailey, but he's got the physicality as well. He's got that.
I mean, don't forget, he's sort of got Sarr's got a lot more of an end product. He likes to sort of get to the byline and then sort of try and get into the box, and you'll win penalties that way and so forth. It just offers that little bit more, sort of consistency for me, and I think he's, like I say, that end product is what you're going to be looking for, that sort of position. And we're missing that on that left-hand side or on the right-hand side of midfield. We're missing that sort of profile where you want that winger who can get up and down, who can defend, who can cross the ball and chip in with a few goals. And let's be honest, we haven't really got that.
No. A couple of Michael and Duncan aren't convinced on Sarr. Martin, your thoughts on Ismaila Sarr?
I'm not really convinced either. I think he's just another one of them who has great pace, but just no end product.
No, I couldn't disagree more. This guy's got.
I think so. In the Championship, the way I see it, he's a great Championship player, but in the Premier League, it's a different jump.
He's been with Watford. That's what you've got to understand. Look at the club who he was playing for and what position they were in at the time, Watford. If you put him, that's what you have to look at when you're looking at potential and ceilings. You've got to look at, if you put him in a better side, how would he perform?
True. Yeah, no, it's a good point. It's a good point.
Yeah. So I think that covers our kind of wide players. We've got Chukwueze, Zaha and Sarr. I mean, like you say, I mean, it's not. You could substitute that for Jackson. There's plenty of wingers and wide players we've been linked with. Obviously, Goncalves, slightly different player, but again, he would be amazing. But in terms of realistic players, I would lean more towards Sarr, like you say, Gareth, because I think he's played for Watford, who, let's face it, he's better than the Championship. He probably should have got a move. Maybe his agent scuppered that move, and he's been unlucky with injury. I think we saw flashes particularly when he played against Villa, and I think he gets that Premier League move. I think you see a different player.
Yeah, I do think what we've got to remember as well is that you're probably looking at Emery's probably going to keep staying with that 4-2-3-1 in possession, and then 4-4-2 out. So Sarr has got to fit. Now we know he can play on the left side of an attacking midfield three. We know he can play on the left side of a 4 in midfield as a winger. So he fits that sort of position where you're gonna look to fill. Yeah,
definitely. Another little interlude in terms of a different question that we got asked was, just bear with me and I'll just try and find it. It was from Rob Doge, and he wanted to ask about Emi Martinez and his distribution. Just bear with me and I'll just get the question. So could I ask Gareth to see how Emi Martinez compares to the rest of the league's keepers for passes completed over the season? This was a few weeks ago, admittedly, and I think his passing might have improved slightly now, but his distribution was woeful on that particular Saturday, and I wonder how he ranks against other Prem keepers. So we've got the bar charts here. There's three separate ones that we've got here.
Yeah.
So we've got total pass completion percentage here. So looking at it, he is what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, he's
7th.
Yeah. So what we've done is we've not the only goalkeeper not to be included here is a Nottingham Forest goalkeeper, purely for the fact that he hasn't reached the threshold for minutes played. So we've kind of sort of not gone for Navas. We've not gone because it's unfair. So we've sort of missed them out. But Martinez ranked 7th for that. I mean, you expect the top 2 and the top 3 almost, because they all play out from the back, as does Lloris and Leno up there, obviously Sanchez. But Martinez, this is a total pass completion percentage. And interesting to look at the one at the bottom there.
I was just about to say that. That is, I mean, he's picked for England on the basis of the quality of his passing. Now, obviously, he could take into account who he's passing to and whether they win the ball or not. But that is really, really surprising.
The thing is, what you've got to remember is Everton tend to go long a lot.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. Yeah.
So the pass completion is never going to be the same, but even so.
Yeah, it's just what he's picked on the basis of. Jim says, issue I have with size, he's at his peak and that isn't going to take us to the next level. Michael agrees with that. He also doesn't rate Pickford, which, yeah, I'm with you there, mate. Jim, will come to your point, your second point in a second. And then the next part of your comparison was long pass percentage. So again, looking at here, I mean, that is
top 5 nearly.
It's pretty decent.
Yeah.
I mean, Edison, that is incredible.
It is incredible. A lot of them are hitting good numbers. I mean, his passing is, for a goalkeeper, I know people say it's good, but it is exceptional. There's not a goalkeeper in the world that can ping a pass like Edison can. It is remarkable because there's not been a goalkeeper like that, and he's a complete standout. But these are a bit rudimentary. I was just asked to look at sort of long.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. It's interesting because I think it's very interesting on the basis of, again, looking at all of the goalkeepers as a whole, because you can get kind of blinkered by your own goalkeeper if they give the ball away a few times in a game. You think, oh, they're crap, or they're this or they're that. But all the goalkeepers do that. And like you say, if they're playing a long ball, very often it's a 50-50 ball anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not even that.
Yeah.
It's not even that. So, I mean, it's a tricky one because we can't just say that, oh, well, a goalkeeper's got a crap long ball percentage, therefore they just must hit it long all the time. It's not always the case, you know. And again, but you can see that, I think, can you just bring that up again? And we can see where Ramsdale is as well there.
Yeah.
You know, again, not great.
He's very down.
And he's our second choice keeper for England, you know, almost beyond Pope, admittedly. But when you're looking down different ones, it's very interesting to see that sort of like you've got the sort of, you know, the normal goalkeeper, the top 6, if you like, apart from Martinez, the top 6 teams are at the top. You know, it's an interesting sort of way of looking at things.
And a quick look at the short pass percentage again. Ramsdale right at the bottom there. Martinez at the top. Obviously, a lot has changed. And well, actually, they used to play a lot of these passes, you know, under Gerrard. You know, obviously just to Mings and back and Conser and back. Now we actually play a bit more progressively. But it's still. We've obviously focused it a lot on the talking tactics, Joe Gareth, with the passing networks.
Yeah, exactly that. You've nailed it. Yeah, and exactly that. You can see sort of a short pass percentage is basically a sort of high. You know, we expect centre backs to have very good short pass percentages, high short pass percentages. But it's good to see that Martinez, at least, you know, it's from a short goal kick. It's not a great standout metric, in all honesty. It's
no. I mean, everyone's 95 and a bit and above, aren't they? So yeah. But you know, I think that answers Rob's question. I hope he's watching, or if he listens or watches later on. But yeah, I think that's interesting. And Martin, I think that shows, like I just said there, that it's not always. It's obviously it's disappointing when a goalkeeper misses a pass or Martinez misses a pass, but comparatively with other goalkeepers, he's not doing too badly.
No, absolutely not. And ever since Emery's come in, because he's so, you know, constantly about playing from out the back and using your goalkeeper, those are good numbers. Those are really good numbers. Imagine what them numbers could have been had Emery been there when he was hired, probably last year when Gerrard was hired. You know, so he's clearly taken on board what Emery wants to do, and you know, and it's paying off. And going by them graphics, it really has paid off. Like he's top 7 in the pass and top 5 in long pass, and then he's number 1, tied number 1 with short passing. So it's clearly working, whatever Emery's doing with him, you know. I mean, a lot of people would say, oh, his distribution is poor because he probably holds on to the ball for too long at times. But he's still getting them passes away, so he's not losing the ball in any regards.
Yeah.
What I will say is, to play devil's advocate, I did a little bit more as well on that, but Opta analysts do sort of their stat hub sort of thing, and actually I looked at sort of like the goals prevented metric, which means that the goals that an actual goalkeeper has been sort of responsible for saving or responsible for letting in. He is actually minus 1.4, which is bottom.
Wow.
So he's
like preventing a goal.
Yeah. So he is the worst ranked goalkeeper in the Premier League for goals prevented at minus 1.4. To put it in comparison, the best is Alisson with 9.6 goals saved. So he is, you know, minus 1.4. So I'm just playing devil's advocate.
And can that be down to the quality of chances that are scored past him? Is that down
to basically all shots on target that he's faced that have gone in? How many of them could he prevented from going in? It's only minus 1.4. It's not a massive high.
No.
But he's the worst ranked goalkeeper for that. No, I'm not slating him off for it, but
no. It's still fairly high standard, isn't it? But yeah. Okay. Well, look, there's always things that goalkeepers can work on, and I think one of the things that Martinez has, sometimes those longer shots, he sometimes doesn't get down quick enough to them, and sometimes off crosses, corners, he's not always as dominant as he maybe could be.
No, I think people get sort of confused that he's a World Cup winning goalkeeper and therefore he's,
they're the best ever. Yeah.
We've seen what's happened to Hugo Lloris. Hugo Lloris is a World Cup winning goalkeeper, but would you sort of call him? He's not at the standard he was back then. And even then, I think Lloris has, in my opinion, has always had that little bit about him where you think there's an error coming. You don't really get that with Martinez. I must say, you don't sort of get that. But I agree, he could be more dominant in the air with crosses, especially, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's a really good feature, Gareth. Thank you so much for that, guys. Again, please do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, help us build the channel, help us get to close to 1,200 subscribers if we can, and then on the road to 2,000. And if you do fancy donating to the channel, please hit that dollar button, and everything goes towards the channel, and it'd be massively appreciated. Right, so we've got questions in the chat about a certain attacking midfielder who lit up. I thought he played really well against Villa for Leicester, and that's what Jim says. Their smart move is to get Maddison from Leicester. Obviously, Michael says he's a Coventry boy who hates Villa. Newcastle being heavily linked. I'm actually surprised you put this bar chart in, Gareth. So I don't know if you know something that we don't. But yeah, talk to us about Maddison and what he might offer.
Yeah, I mean, this is a tricky one because where does he fit into a 4-4-2? So that's what we would ask ourselves out of possession. But Villa in possession, a 4-2-3-1. Now he fits that. He could play in a number 10 perfectly. So it depends then who you've got up top, whether it be Ollie Watkins or not. But you're looking to safeguard sort of the issues behind Ollie Watkins if a centre forward can't be recruited. So then you're looking at what can we do to bolster that next line behind that to increase that creativity for Watkins and for the side in general. And I think Maddison is one of those sort of players. Don't pay attention to people who are saying people don't like players because, they're not going to join because they hate Villa or whatever. Players don't think like that. They just don't. If they're going to come to where the money is, and B, where they can get some reasonably decent football. The trouble is that Leicester are an improving side, and he likes Brendan Rodgers. He looks comfortable at Leicester. He's just got an England call up. Is he going to want to sort of move to Villa or anything else? It's a tricky one, but we know what he brings. Given his fitness is an issue, though. I would say that.
Yeah. Martin, you kind of gave a little kind of glance back and went back in your chair a little bit at the thought of Maddison. What's you're not liking about him?
His injury record.
Yeah.
There's time. Sorry, he is a good player. He's a quality player, and he makes Leicester a better team. But there's always spells in the seasons. Just any future season he's had, there's always like 3 months here or 1 month there, or it's that injury record. So I'm not saying he's a liability because he's not. It's just the injury record makes him a liability, and that's, you want to be forking out nearly 40-50 million for someone who misses good chunks of the season. And like Michael said, he's a Coventry man, so he's not going to play for a club he doesn't like.
It doesn't come into it.
I know it doesn't, but for some of them it does. You never know. For some of them, it does.
If he knew he was getting like more money, if he knew he was getting, like, I don't know, let's say we were going for Europe or gunning for Europe or whatever. I mean, to be honest, I think he probably goes to Newcastle out of Villa, or if the choice was the two, because I don't think he's quite at the level of like a Liverpool or a Man United. But
no, he's definitely not at that level. He's at the level of either
Newcastle or something like that.
Yeah, like he's definitely at the level of us, Newcastle, maybe Spurs.
But then Leicester are they're having a pretty bad season this season, but they're not far off us. They beat us. and they played us off the park like a lot of the time attacking wise. So, like Gareth says, is he gonna take the risk? Is he gonna move elsewhere for?
I mean, if
Leicester might have to sell him though. That's the only thing.
Yeah, I mean, if that applies, like, why did he go to Leicester from Norwich if he doesn't? Because Leicester Coventry is, not too dissimilar, is it?
Yeah.
It doesn't. I agree with Martin that you will get the odd player who will say, "Well, no, I'm not going there. I'm not." Whatever.
Callum Wilson didn't want to go to Villa, did he?
No, he said that. Yeah, he didn't want to go. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's different. I don't know, but I will agree. What I do agree with Martin is the injury thing, and I think that would be looked at quite detailed.
Exactly.
Is it worth how much are we going to get? How much gain are we going to get out of him if we pay such and such money? How much is he going to play?
But it's not even just what games are we going to get out of him. It's what contribution in those games are we going to get out of him. Because for Leicester, I know he's quality.
Yeah, he gets goals.
For quality, I know he's quality.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he can move to a different club and it just doesn't work out.
Yeah.
That happens to players.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah, absolutely. Another player, again, heavily linked in January. One that's possibly more likely is Matteo Guendouzi, who, again, the rumours won't go away. Is this a more realistic option in that midfield area, Gareth?
Yeah. Basically. Yep.
Yeah.
I think it is. I think he will. I think we will see him come in the summer. I think because I think the groundworks were done for that earlier on in the season. I wouldn't be surprised if Villa were on a promise here.
Yeah, like pretty much a done deal.
I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying it's
no.
It's gone too quiet.
Yeah. I agree.
And it's typical Villa to do things when it's quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I absolutely wouldn't be surprised if it's already kind of done, subject to.
And what I will say is, for Marseille, he's been filling two positions. He can play in sort of further forward, and he can also play in the centre of midfield. So that is, a real sort of bonus that he could play in those two positions. Should someone maybe like a Maddison or whoever else be injured and can't play, someone could fill that spot.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, he's Emery's first signing at Arsenal.
I think he was, wasn't he? Yeah, I think I've read that somewhere as well. Yeah.
So he was the first signing of the post-Wenger era under Emery, and he was playing him straight away, and he was 18 years old. Now, admittedly, he had the French temper. He was young, so it was all coming to. But Emery knew how to manage that, which is why Guendouzi loves Emery.
Yeah,
but now he's matured a little bit, so hopefully that should improve his game even more.
I agree. Playing in the Champions League and everything is really especially as a young player, would really bring. We see what happens to sort of Bellingham. You can see that playing at that higher standard for a continuous period of time is really improved him. I think there was one I did ages ago. I did this bar chart ages ago, I think, and we spoke about earlier on in the season, didn't we?
Yeah, I think I might have.
I could see that there's even been an improvement on that first graphic since then. So, and that's been the case for quite a few of them. The other ones that I did, Kang-in, for example, at Mallorca, who we looked at a little while ago, his metrics have improved immensely.
Who? Sorry, I didn't quite hear that. Who?
Kang-in from Mallorca.
Oh, Mallorca, yeah.
Another player who we looked at, whose metrics have improved even more since we looked at him in January. So,
yeah, there we are.
Not great on the passing side, but that's not what we're looking at.
The dribbles, assists,
looking at the creativity, the shooting,
creating actions. Yeah. I can just picture a real nippy player in and around the box there.
But you know what I like though? Sorry, go on, Gareth.
That's right. He's a similar sort of player to Sarr in some ways, where he likes to sort of get the ball, drive into the box, and win fouls that way and sort of thing. But he's got that little bit of more creativity about him.
Yeah.
And sorry, can you just get that graphic back up? Can you get the graphic back up of Kang-in there, please?
Kang-in, yeah.
I know the passing, when you go past completion, long passes, complete, medium, short, it's not great. But one thing that is great there, that is something that may be lacking a little bit, is the through balls, the progressive passes, and the passes into the penalty area. So it goes to show that he really is good at making key passes into those areas to create other chances for people, which is why his creativity is so high.
One at the bottom there.
Yeah. He doesn't, he obviously has that bit of creativity. And like you said with the fouls, he's not afraid to make them smart little fouls to stop other teams attacking. So it's definitely something that should be looked at.
And what I would say is he was probably the more attainable option out of the ones that we've probably looked at.
He'd probably be the most cheapest too. I think he's got a very short release clause.
Yeah,
because if it goes into the summer, it's meant to be short.
There's a few clubs interested in him, isn't there? But I think if our scouting system's pretty good, the way we get players is pretty good, and if Guendouzi, I think is pretty much is the big favourite. But I think someone like a Kang-in could come in and be that kind of wild card type player who you don't necessarily have to fork out.
Yeah, it's not the headline player that comes in the summer where there's not much pressure on him to perform well.
Yeah. We've got a couple of questions. So Guendouzi, Duncan says can play right mid or central defensive midfielder too, very versatile. Jim says who would MG play instead of McGinn? And Duncan says Buendia likely. Yeah, so who would Matteo?
No, I think it'd be ahead of Bailey.
Who's that? Sorry, I've lost.
Guendouzi. Who would Guendouzi play instead of?
Guendouzi won't play. Guendouzi would be more likely to be recruited as a centre midfielder, I would imagine.
So instead of, obviously competition to the likes of McGinn. You touched on like Ramsey, didn't you? Like he's obviously started to play a little bit better over the last couple of games, but that's a position where Emery might be looking for either him to step up or to add extra quality or competition.
Yeah, the thing is what people sometimes get confused with, and it's easy to do so, is that they think that if we sign Guendouzi, that means somebody else has got to come out of the side, and you're looking to add competition into that squad. You're going to have quite a few games, and it's important to do that. But that question is right. Like I say, Guendouzi, I think, can play sort of higher up on the right of attack and midfield threat, but he can also play in centre midfield. But I don't know whether he might be looking at doing a 4-1-4-1, so therefore he can accommodate Luis Kamara and Guendouzi all in one hit.
Another central midfielder, again linked in January, was Mikel Merino, again another Spanish player. Very solid midfielder, obviously past player at Newcastle, went out to Spain and done well. Another player who could cover in that central midfield area, Gareth?
The super player is Mikel Merino. Anybody who knows, if you haven't got any sort of platforms that I've got access to, but just check out those YouTube highlights and you'll see everything. It's not the way I would do things, but go and check them out because honestly, he's fantastic. He's a fantastic player, Mikel Merino, strong on the ball, hold it up, turn, give and goes, really sort of got an eye for a pass from, sort of an advanced midfield position. Defensive contribution has always been really good. That's improved massively since we last looked at him in January. So that's obviously been spoken about. But yeah, I mean, I would like to see him at Villa Park, I must admit.
But I think he came out and said that he didn't want to join, wasn't it? Apparently we were going to meet his release clause. I just seen it on Twitter, so with Twitter, you can just see everything.
But again, we're looking at when we talk about where we recruit from.
It's true, it fits the profile.
It fits the profile, yeah. So I think it's whether he'll be looked at or not, I don't know.
Yeah. So there's quite a few players that we've covered there. I think we've gone Merino, we've gone Maddison, we've gone Lee Kang-in, we've gone Matteo Guendouzi, who we do think is the big favourite. But again, I'll ask you the question. I'll come to you first, Gareth. If you had the choice, let's say 2 out of those 4. Who are you going for?
God, I don't know. I mean, I'm not as big a fan as Guendouzi as some people, I have to admit. Out of anyone we've spoken about tonight?
No, those 4. So we've got Merino, we've got Maddison, we've got Lee Kang-in, we've got Matteo Guendouzi.
I think I know who Gareth's going with.
I'm going with Merino and Kang-in.
Yeah.
Martin?
Guendouzi and Kang-in. I just think apparently the release clause is very high for Merino at the minute. I don't think Villa will pay it.
Yeah. I like Maddison.
So do I. I like him as a player.
I like him too, but I just think it's the injury record is what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
It's not something you want.
Look, we talked about like if we could add everything. Jim says Mikel Merino is definitely a class act and would be a massive signing. Duncan said Ibrahim Sangari at CDM is linked too, potentially, and he said Guendouzi is 80 to 90% likely for him in the summer. Doesn't think Maddison would fit our system.
But can I name one player that I think I would like to see come in that we haven't mentioned? And you can call me stupid if you want, but I think James Ward-Prowse would be a great addition.
Someone mentioned that in the chat there before.
I wonder if he's got quite a big release clause now because he signed a new contract, didn't he, last year?
Yeah. I reckon it would be less if they go down. I like him, but I'm not a huge fan of him.
No, here's the thing. I think, Gareth, you might agree with me on this, you might not. The fact that he's so good at his free kick actually takes away how good of a footballer he actually is.
Yeah, but this is my point about Ivan Toney, is that you've got penalties and everything. I mean, you would say that about Ward-Prowse because you're going to have more set pieces than you are penalties. Let's be honest, aren't you? So in that respect, sort of like for us, but I don't know if he does enough for me as a centre midfielder apart from crossing the ball well.
Yeah,
can you take a look, Gareth, and send it on to Rich or myself and see what he's like without the free kicks?
We did look at him in January, didn't we, Rich? And then
I think so. I just, again, I'm the same. I'm like, to me, he's like a good version of what England produce out of the academies. He's a good version of what England produce. A centre midfielder that England produce out of academies. He can pass it well 10 yards. He can knock a decent long ball. He can hit a good free kick, but he's not particularly quick. He's not great in the tackle. He's not massively strong. And I think you can get better from Spain. I think you get better technical players from Spain with the same strength. Fair enough, he's brilliant at free kicks, but I'd rather he'd have practiced other elements of his game than that, to be honest. If it'd have been me as his coach when he was a kid, I'd have said spend half hour less on free kicks and do some technical skills. So yeah. Anyway, that's my rant over. Dunk says Ward-Prowse for set pieces. Paul Welford says Kondogbia could be an option. Duncan said, where would you play Ward-Prowse? Alfie says Ings was a scorer till he came to us. Jim said, not sure that we win that many free kicks, do we? So a no for JWP on that basis. Had we have had Grealish,
would.
Yeah, Michael says what he likes about this podcast is a proper discussion and a healthy difference of opinion with the mindset to change. Well done. Thank you,
Thanks,
mate.
Michael.
That's what we like. Smith Rowe.
No.
I don't know if that's going to be done. And then Duncan agrees with us about the Grealish and Ward-Prowse combo. Just finishing.
Oh, wow. Scotland are winning 2-0.
Oh, wow. Excellent. Excellent.
Beating Spain 2-0.
Duran got 2 goals tonight, didn't he?
I know he definitely got one.
Did he get one?
He was great finish as well. Yeah, great finish.
He was really good today.
Yeah. I don't know I know they won 2-1, so hopefully he got 2, but I know he definitely got 1. Couple of defenders to finish off with. Now this one here, Hamari Traore, and I've just googled him, and am I right in thinking he's 31?
Yeah, this is the only thing. He reached that sort of, when I was sort of got my own app sort of thing with all the stat and everything on it, and he sort of flagged up quite high, sort of in a lot of metrics, and I was really interested in him, and I thought, I'll plot a load of stuff and just see what he looks like, but then realised he was 31 and thought, it's not.
Well, like, to be fair, mate, we've signed a 29-year-old fullback in Moreno, so I don't know. Like, is he a player that could?
Is he a right back or a left back?
He's a right back.
He's a right back. Okay.
So when he fits, when he put all sort of like the different filters into my app and everything, what you've got, he was sort of come out and I just couldn't believe it. I thought I've heard of him, but I thought I never really sort of looked into it deeply enough, and I sort of wanted to sort of stuck it on a bar chart, see what it would look like, and I thought I was well impressed. And I'm thinking, why is nobody looking at this guy? Unless they are, I don't know. But that statistical output, attacking output for a right back is really good. But again, it goes back to the thing: is that the way we're going to go with 2 attacking fullbacks? I don't know.
True.
I personally never heard of him. I couldn't tell you anything about him.
No, I've never heard of him. He looks a big lad, so he could cover that centre back spot as well. But yeah, 31 in stats from the French league. So yeah,
no, but that's plotted against all the right backs in the big 5 leagues.
Yeah.
That's not just comparing him to the French fullbacks, because that would be stupid. Yeah. So you put them all towards that big 5 league. That's his output against big 5 right backs. That's pretty good for a 31-year-old, I'll tell you.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
not bad at all. Now on the other scale, very young defender is Mohamed Salisu, and got some good reviews this season for Southampton. A struggling side. I think he's had injuries as well. Yeah, I've been impressed with him. I think he's 21 or 22 as well. But I mean, look at these stats, Gareth.
Yeah, high ceiling. So we're looking at a player with a very high ceiling for a centre back if he carries on that way. And considering now the metrics will be sort of heightened a little bit, exaggerated, because he's in a struggling Southampton side. So he's having to do a lot more defending than everybody else is. So they might be a bit inflated. So you've got to take that into account a bit. Maybe take off 3 or 4 or 5% on some of their metrics, but real scope for improvement. But I think he'll have bigger suitors.
Yeah, 100%. Martin, your thoughts on Salisu?
Yeah, the one thing I'm looking, it's fantastic defensive stats. Like Gareth says, because he's playing for Southampton, who's struggling, so it's going to be a lot more defensive. The one thing I'm looking at, though, and I could probably say it's because he's playing for Southampton, is the passing. Now, I know in an Emery style game, that's not going to cut it, but admittedly he could be very good at passing and his long passing, but it's because of the team he's playing for. So I wouldn't read too much into that, but that's just something I noticed. But then again, that's probably because of the club he's playing for.
No, that's a fair shout.
Yep.
What sort of price do you think he would command, Gareth? I know, like you say, I think bigger suitors. Did they get him from Man City?
I don't know. I think
they got it was Lavia or something they got from Man City, but
right, okay.
I think they got
Lavia was from Manchester City, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll have a look for you.
Valladolid, I think they got him from.
Yeah, got to look at contract lengths and things like that really to get an estimation.
Yeah.
But I mean,
he's 23. Yeah, they're going from Real Valladolid. Yeah.
You're probably looking at 25-30 million. If you can, what the prices are like these days for them sorts. It's not easy, is it, to grab a really good centre back with a high ceiling at such a young age?
Yeah,
but that might drop though if they go down.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, I mean that's fantastic. We've got one more little thing to share with everyone in a second, but just again, I wanted to shout out Michael Huggins, who's a massive supporter of the pod, is one to massively shout out this as well. And Martin, you went to the match 2 weeks ago when the Villa women's team got into the semi-finals of the cup, beating Man City. Obviously they had a great result on Sunday against Leicester, winning 5. I think it's 8 games unbeaten or something for the women's team. Looking in 5th position at the moment, doesn't look like they're going to get any higher. But I think I do think that they I think the tickets are on sale for the semi-final against Chelsea. So I think if we could get as many people there to support as possible, that would be amazing, because they've had a cracking season. And obviously, the more people they get through the gate, Martin, the more funds they're going to get to keep players like Rachel Daly and get more players added to the squad.
That's it, and that's just the way you have to see it, isn't it? Like, if the fans keep coming, supporting the likes of Rachel Daly, Jordan Nobbs, Hannah Hampton, Sarah Mailing, Alicia Lehman, Remy Allen, these are all great players, and they're only going to build from it. And Carla Ward, what a job she's done. Like, when I was watching them there against Man City, admittedly they didn't have too much of the ball because of the opposition they were in it, but they were just so compact. They just did not let Man City get through. And funny enough, Man City didn't really create that many clear-cut chances because they were so good defensively, Aston Villa. So it was definitely a breath of fresh air to actually go watch the women's team as opposed to the men's, because they're playing so well at the minute. And if I'm not mistaken, is it the same with the women's where they go to Wembley for the semi-final and the final?
Oh, I don't know. I know that it was on the Villa website, on the Villa Twitter to say that they were on sale, but Where the game is, I don't know.
Because if it is, unfortunately, I can't make it anyway because I got my phase 4 apprenticeship, unfortunately, to do. So otherwise, I probably wouldn't.
And it'd be a fair
to
trip
Wembley,
for you, mate. To be fair, yeah.
Otherwise, I would have been on the plane to Wembley, so it would have
been good.
It is what it is.
Yeah. Awesome. I'll find out in a second. Did want to have a quick look, and we'll get viewers' thoughts on this as well. So please drop your comments into the chat, and also hit that like button, guys. Please do hit that subscribe button as well. 14 free agents, Martin, that you saw. They've tweeted out. I think that's been doing the rounds. Wilfried Zaha, obviously, we've featured. Marcus Thuram was heavily linked. Moussa Dembele has been heavily linked already with us. But what's your thoughts on those free transfers?
Yeah, when I seen it, I think when the tweet was, he put a list of realistic players that maybe Villa could go after, and we obviously went with 14. Admittedly, I think a few of those names in there probably are a bit far stretched, just because I know probably their contract will get sorted out. But if I was looking at anybody here, I'd probably go with Yuri Tielemans, Chris Smalling, Marcus Thuram, and Asensio. Now, people in the comments, you can have your pick there. Who would you take out of this list? Rich, I don't know who you take, or Gareth, who would you take on this list?
Well, let's go to Gareth first, because
I'll definitely have a look at Marcus Thuram and Yuri Tielemans for definite. And Traore we highlighted already, but Asensio, I'm not too sure. I think a couple of the others, even Belotti, I think we did look at him on a pod once, didn't we?
We did.
Was playing quite well, sort of.
Inigo Martinez was linked, wasn't he, a couple of weeks ago? But again,
and then you've Moussa Dembele there as well, who was linked.
I think Dembele could be done, but it's just so easy to link. You substitute Villa, Newcastle. If Everton stay up, like these West Ham, like these type of clubs will just get linked to these players because it's just so easy.
It's always a Villa, Everton, Newcastle, West Ham, them 4 clubs.
Yeah, I mean Tielemans would be great, but I don't see that. I see maybe a Dembele, and I see, depending on who we get in the window. If we went for a Tammy Abraham, then I don't think a Dembele would come. But we'll wait and see. Right, I think we're done, lads. I think that's been a great pod. Gareth, thank you so much for your time, mate.
That's all right, mate.
Putting everything together, that's just so helpful for us, and answering those questions. I think the Martinez thing was great, like to look at that. Obviously thinking about the right back situation as well, and going through those players in such detail. You give a new perspective to certain players that maybe people think might fit in that maybe don't, and equally those that we think don't fit in that might do. So thank you so much, mate, for the information. And again, where can everyone find you? And I'm sure if people wanted this information, you'd be able to provide it as well.
Just at that Karate JC. As always, I always say, just give me a shout if you want the slides or anything, or the data or anything. Just give me a shout.
Brilliant. Martin, thank you so much again, mate, and great to have you on board. Good fun chat. We'll be back in the week for later on in the week for a preview for Chelsea. Premier League football is back this weekend, lads. So hopefully back with a bang against Chelsea.
I'm praying to the football gods as we speak.
I know. So we'll be back with a match preview. I will try and do a Bodymore bulletin as well if we get any more news of probably going to be injuries and all that coming up. So check out on the channel. Thank you everyone for watching, and remember, we all follow the Villa. Thanks everyone.